Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to our virtual Open Iftar 2021, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Farah, and I will be your host for this evening. We have an exciting event planned for you today with speakers from the British Library, and really exciting, lots and lots to say. But before we get started, I'd like to thank our media partner for this year, Islam Channel, and give a special welcome to those joining us from Islam Channel's Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. I also want to thank the Arts Council UK, whose help has allowed us to continue our work this Ramadan, all of which is available on our website. And our work this Ramadan is supported by Islamic Relief, our charity partner. And you can check out the incredible work that Islamic Relief does at iruk.co/RTP. So for those who are joining us on Facebook or YouTube, our virtual open iftars are interactive. So I'd love to encourage you to hop on the Zoom. And for those of you who are comfortable, turn on your cameras so we can see you. To access our Zoom, you can go to ramadan10project.com and jump in live there. So a quick run through of the tech for those of you who are on Zoom. You'll find at the bottom of your screens or in the more section of your mobile, there's a reactions option. And so you can show us how you're feeling in real time. There's also a raise hand option for if you want to ask our speakers a question or add to the discussion, and someone from our back-end team will unmute you. You can only do this if you're live on Zoom. So join in, get interactive, post in the chat box for those who haven't joined us before. And we'd also love to know where you're joining us from today. Today we have such a diverse array of speakers. So post in the chat box where you're calling from so we can see who we have joining us today. So we're going to start off with Rehan. So Rehan, how are you today?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, alhamdulillah. It's like Ramadan it's on its way out. It seems like not long ago since it started.
Yeah, it would go really quickly. I was hoping for Eid to be tomorrow, but it's Thursday. But I'm like, probably shouldn't complain. But you know what you're gonna do.
Shabana's quite excited. Shabana's happy Eid is on Thursday. Actually, did you start fasting? We all started on different days, I know here. So did you start? I started on the Wednesday. Shabana, when did you look like you started on the Wednesday too?
Yeah, Wednesday. So I want everyone to do Eid on the same day. So Thursday.
Eid is definitely going to be on Thursday, but some people say it might be Friday. So for those who are joining us, Eid is always an interesting conversation to have. We have lots of smiles there. Oh, we've got Charles is calling from Wembley as well, by the way. So we'd love to hear from you, Charles, if you have to be unmuted at some stage. And different people start on different days, but it's also nice then to have that unity as well, so that you can have Eid, which is the end of Ramadan, our celebration, where you sort of eat lots and lots of good food and share that as well with others on the same day. So Shabana, are you back in London?
No, I'm back in Manchester. So I live between London and Manchester, but yeah, I'm back in Manchester for end of Ramadan and Eid and for my birthday. But yeah, it's crazy because it goes so quick, and it's just it's that mad rush at the end when it's the last few days and you're trying to fit everything in and you're trying to figure everything out, and just it's good though because you want to enjoy it and have as much reflection time, prayer time. But yeah, it's just all go.
It's it's like for those again who maybe unfamiliar with Ramadan, the last 10 days are the most important 10 days for some people. It's the time the Quran was revealed to our Prophet, peace be upon him, and they're meant to be the really important days. So then there's a rush to pray and just to get in all your prayers and asking God for various things, and just a mad rush. So we've got 2 days now. I know lots of people are pulling all-nighters, trying to get through make the most of the moments of Ramadan. I see Anwar and Jamal nodding. So let's hear from you, Anwar. How's your Ramadan been?
Yeah, it's quite good. I mean, it's running so fast. I mean, I don't know. We are already end of the Ramadan, so it's quite exciting and to be part of because God grace, we're still observing the Ramadan. So thanks to God Almighty.
And what's the iftar today, Anwar?
Oh, say again?
What are you having for iftar today? So
Oh yeah,
evening meal to
as
break the
usual.
fast.
Yeah, as usual with cold juice and dates as a sunnah of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and some small portion of biryani today probably.
What is that?
Biryani.
Oh, biryani.
Biryani, yeah.
We do like biryani.
Yeah, I'd like and,
Oh,
and some chicken steak.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. So I was speaking to Emma. So Emma's was from the British Library, and the last time we had our live iftar at the British Library was in 2019, and we were joined that evening. The food was given to us by courtesy of Disham, and we had the chefs from Disham. I can see Amber nodding as well. Amber remembers that evening. So we had the founder and the head chef from Disham on early in Ramadan, and we had a conversation about biryani. So I said, Chef, you know, what's your favorite biryani? Is it chicken biryani or is it lamb biryani? And Chef said, there's no such thing as chicken biryani. So yeah, apparently only lamb biryani is biryani. But Emma, over to you. I remember you saying you enjoyed that evening.
Oh yes, very much so. I was pregnant. I was quite pregnant, and I was just over that horrible bit of like not being able to eat. So it was fantastic to take part in in the Dishu meal, and I remember it really well. We were and actually some of my colleagues who were also there that evening are here in the audience this evening. So yeah, we really enjoyed it. It was lovely. I think I had the meat. I think I had lamb, but I like veg as well. Actually, I'm kind of like I'm always a bit I like both.
The same. I do like my veg. And what are you having for dinner today?
I am having, it's not very eventful, I'm having my leftover spag bowl, which is what I made for the boys for their dinner this evening. And I held off. I was really hungry, but I didn't eat.
You'll be eating around the same time as us today.
I will be, yes.
Oh, excellent. So that sounds really adventurous. I just said to Shabana that I'm having a salad. She's not impressed. If I can get my sister to like pick up food, hopefully it'll be something a little bit more interesting. Sarah's having something light, salad, bread, and hummus. Oh, there you go. Sarah's. There you go. I'm not the only one. So I'm conscious of the time. We're coming up to 7:58. Really sorry for keeping everyone waiting today. It's fantastic to have so many new faces join us for our now penultimate open iftar. So today's talk is going to be about institutions in the grassroots, so community initiatives. And before we get started on today's talk, on today's discussion, we're just going to play a short message from Rowley Keating. Rowley is the Chief Executive of the British Library. Can you turn the sound up on that for me and replay it? Sorry for the technical error. You'll have to unmute yourself, whoever is playing that for me today. Sorry, everybody. Right, we're having a few technical difficulties. Hopefully we'll hear from Rowley shortly. And what we'll do now is I'll give a brief introduction to our speakers for today. We've got lots of people who are representing the British Library. We're really, really looking forward to having a fantastic conversation. And there we go. We're just going to stop the screen sharing now. And we're going to start off with telling you a little bit about our speakers today. So first of all, we have Emma Morgan. Emma is a community engagement manager for the British Library. And Emma, do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, yes. I am. Do you want personal or just professional? I don't mind. A bit of both.
A bit of both. You know, what got you involved, and you know what you're up to.
I guess I should start with my involvement at the library, which so I started at the British Library in 5 years ago now, it's gone very quickly, when the British Library was kind of embarking on this new level of local community engagement. So it was quite a new team when I joined. It was brand new. We were starting from scratch, which was really exciting. Before that, I had worked, this is a really interesting topic for me, because before that I'd worked in really small community-based organisations. So it was my first step into a museum or heritage sector organisation, if you like. So that was really interesting. And we have since then been, I guess, just really trying to build on all of the fantastic engagement work and programmes that kind of already happened at the British Library long before that, but perhaps weren't felt by local people. So there was a bit of sort of independent research consultation that took place that essentially kind of created, if you like, this very function for the British Library. And since then, we've been building on that, and I guess making friends and building bridges and relationships with people like Anwar and Abdikadir, who are here with us this evening as examples of sort of our partnership approach to community work. But yeah, I'm a Londoner. I've just recently moved out of London slightly, which is quite strange, but I grew up just off the Edgware Road. I went to school at North Westminster Community School. So if anyone's local to that area, you'll know that there was a really large Muslim community at that high school. And I do have some experience of sticking to the fast, which I know is a very, very big test of endurance. So big respect to everyone who does it for the whole duration of Ramadan. I gave it a go when I was at school, and I always found it like a real challenge. So yeah, I'm really, really happy to be here and support this initiative. And obviously I was involved in the Open Iftar in 2019, which was the first time we hosted it at the British Library. And I think, yeah, for all sorts of like logistical reasons, lots of people don't realise, but I didn't know this until that event actually, but the British Library's piazza is essentially the roof of all of our kind of amazing storage that looks after all of the wonderful collection. So it was kind of quite thinking about the logistics of where things go and that kind of thing. It was quite a big undertaking, but it was just amazing to see it come off and to see how well received it was locally, especially. I mean, Anwar's here in part because I remember just seeing him and his family afterwards, and they were just so excited about it all. So anyway, I'll shut up now, but that's a little bit about me.
Emma, thank you so much for sharing that a little bit about yourself. And we are now going to move on to Anwar. Anwar is also going to share a little bit about himself. So over to you.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, hi. I'm Anwar Zaman. I'm a local resident. I mean, when I say local, that means I'm near British Library, so we live locally. So I'm involved in various community projects like Big Local Neighborhood Forum, that Canis Residents Association, and also involved in local mosque. It's been a pleasure to work side by side with British Library from community residents perspective. So I myself, I'm a chartered architectural technologist. I have a small business, architectural business. So that's how I also, I mean, helping our mosque in terms of some technical drawings. And I'm also, I mean, involved in some other community projects. So that's how I met Emma as a community residence or with community projects. So, and I remember, I mean, 2019, the Iftar projects in British Library, which was one of my memorable day, and for my family as well. It was, I mean, like one of the most largest, I mean, Iftar party I've ever had. So hopefully, I don't know whether we're gonna have it again. So it's really, I mean, I've enjoyed that. I mean, party is just quite huge. And you know, I can say my wife said that she felt like all the people around her is like her relatives. I mean, it's like, sounds great to me. And my daughter enjoyed it, and my son enjoyed all that surrounding by various faces, various religion, I think, from every aspect of life. So it was a really great experience on that time.
Thank you so much, Anwar. And that's pretty much what Ramadan Tent Project is about. It's about bringing communities together, having conversations with people who you may not otherwise meet in your daily, in your day-to-day lives. And we're now going to move on to Jamal. So Jamal is also going to be joining us today and joining in the discussion. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jamal.
Yeah, my name is Jamal. As he said, I'm a local resident. I live near the British Library, and I've been working on and off with SYDRC, which the guys will tell you more about later on. But I'm working on and off with them for about the last 10 years. And it's just been really great to be involved in my community and help out where I can, and just help out people that are in similar situations as me, and just give them advice and other sort of ways I can help around the community. And recently I worked on a project for the British Library about just researching the local community from the perspective of young people, and just trying to inform them about the needs and the opinions and views of young people on the British Library in general, but also what could be included in their new expansion. I don't know when it's stated to be done, but in the next few years. And yeah, it was a very meaningful project for me. I really enjoyed, especially during COVID. It was hard to meet a lot of new people and get to talk to a lot of people. So doing this project helped me reach out to a lot of people that wouldn't usually speak to, and getting to hear their opinions and views about an institution that is such a big part of in the local area, such a big building and such a great place to visit. So it was good to hear their opinions, and just to see how their voices and their opinions could help shape it in the future was really interesting for me.
Thank you so much, Jamal. And now we've spoken about Abdi Kadir, and Abdi Kadir, over to you.
Thank you. My name is Abdi Kadir. I've been involved in grassroots community work for about 15 years, and I'm proud to say I live in the best borough in Camden, in London, which is Camden. It's a borough that I've lived in for 31 years, and as I said earlier, I've always been a person who wanted to get involved in my local community. So starting up initiatives in terms of football initiatives, community programs, and in terms of at the moment, we manage a community centre in the heart of central London and King's Cross. And what it initially does is it brings young people predominantly, but also the community together. We held an international day 2 years ago, which brought all the members of the Camden community together in terms of sharing food, in terms of sharing programs, and in terms of getting to know each other. And I think it's really important. I think the Ramadan tent project is a great initiative. And I think it's really important that during these difficult times that we do bring, build bridges between communities, and also, just share our experiences, but also, there's a lot that unites us, and there's a lot less that divides us. So I think I've always been a person who's optimistic, but also been involved in my local community in terms of improving it. As a 20-year-old, in terms of volunteering through various initiatives, in terms of the Kentish Town community, the Camden community, and I think it's always important that we do our bit in terms of playing our part in terms of what can we do personally in our local community. The organisation I work for at the moment, Somali Youth Resource Centre, is a grassroots organisation which works with young people, over 55s, under 5s, gives a lot of training to parents, mothers in particular, around parental engagement, around supporting your teenage children and stuff like that. But I think it's always a great initiative, when you bring the community together in terms of food's a great joiner for bringing communities together. I think sharing food, but also just sharing our experiences has always been something that I've always been interested in. Just trying to improve my local community is something that I think I always try to strive in doing.
Thank you so much, Abdi Kadir. And I believe our message is now ready. So we're going to play that now from Rhoda Keating.
All able to come together like. Hello, everybody. I'm Rowley Keating. I'm Chief Executive at the British Library. And on behalf of all of us at the library, I would like to wish all our neighbours and friends in the local community a peaceful and joyful Ramadan. This year, it is good that we are all able to come together like this online, but I look forward very much to a time when we are once again able to open our piazza properly and welcome you in person to share iftar as we did in 2019. But in the meantime, I wish you Ramadan Kareem and Eid Mubarak. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're really grateful to Rayleigh for sharing that greeting with us. So today's topic, for those who are just joining us, it's about institutions in the grassroots and community initiatives. So I was doing my research for this, and I realised that it's a term that people may not be familiar with. What do we mean by grassroots? So the UNHCR, which is the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, defines grassroots organisations as those organisations that are primarily made up of civilians advocating a cause to spur change at local, national and international levels. Bottom-up approaches allow for citizens, sometimes through grassroots organisations, to define their own goals and how to achieve them. The opposite approach is called top-down, which is normally employed by governments or corporations, and these institute policies and regulations that affect the populations they serve. Now, while these two are two distinctive styles of management, a feedback loop between bottom-up and top-down approaches can help track and monitor any initiatives and projects. So, Emma, over to you. So for those who don't know, Emma is a program manager at the British Library. Emma, tell us a little bit about which programs you're working on at the moment to reach out to local communities. And before we get started on that, I really would like to say to everyone who's joining us today, we've got so many different faces today. Do post any questions, even if they're your colleagues, in the chat box, or any comments. We'd love to hear from you, because you may have an insight that we don't have. So it's always great to hear from everyone and all the questions and comments for those joining us today. So over to you, Emma.
At the moment, particular initiatives we're working on obviously have changed quite dramatically, as they have done for lots of people, I suppose, over the last year. And we've been adjusting and adapting to doing more and more online, but we're hopeful that we'll be able to kind of continue with the sorts of things that we were kind of really getting going with before we had COVID, obviously. But maybe to give you a bit of background, I suppose our starting point as a community engagement team at the British Library is that the existing programme at the library is fantastic. There's so much that already happens without the kind of like additional work that we do to make people, or to connect it to people and connect people with it. So a big part of what we do is less programs. It's actually, in a lot of ways, it's more like community liaison and connecting people and building bridges and relationships. So one of the bits of feedback that I feel like really kind of highlights what it is that we do as a team for the library, that I think is really important, is when the initial kind of consultation was happening about the exploration of expanding the British Library site took place back in sort of 2015, 2016. One of the kind of bits of feedback that came up again and again from local people was not that there was anything bad or like there wasn't anything wrong with the British Library necessarily, but people felt disconnected from it. So I think a huge part of what we've been doing is trying to help solve that problem, really, find meaning in what it is that we have to offer, and also better understand the community so that the British Library is in a better position to shape things in a way that is, I guess, what's wanted by local audiences. So everything that we do is done in partnership. None of what we do is on our own in isolation. Our team works very much with groups to decide on projects, which, as anyone who's done any community work here tonight, I'm sure there's lots of you will know, it often takes quite a long time to establish things and get things off the ground, because you're involving lots of different groups with different cultures and ways of working, and also obviously working with a big organisation like the British Library. It's a big bureaucratic institution with lots of processes, and there's a huge events and exhibitions programme. So quite often, sort of like trying to plan stuff into that can be one of our challenges in terms of sort of marrying the grassroots with a big organisation, to sort of go back to that theme that you mentioned at the beginning. But to give you some sort of examples, we're just about to hopefully start opening up with things like our show and tell sessions, which has been going for a long time at the British Library. British Library's always done fantastic show and tell sessions whereby people can basically come to the British Library and see something really interesting from one of the collections and hear from one of the experts that look after that collection. And our job, I suppose, one of the things that we've done quite a bit of since setting up this department is to ensure that that opportunity to meet with experts and experience the collection up close and personal and feel it and, you know, kind of get to know about it and know it's there and be able to ask questions and that sort of thing, it's available to them too. So we've opened it up so that you don't have to necessarily be part of a particular group or academic institution or educational facility. You can just know us, we get to know people, what's your interest, and we kind of figure out who is that. Quite often Amber and Charlotte are in the audience somewhere, and they're our team, and we kind of quite often ourselves won't necessarily know, oh, that interest is really niche and we don't know who's the right person. So quite often we have to then go do lots of research and figure out who it would be that might, for instance, put that kind of show and tell together. So we're hoping to start our sort of what we would refer to as business as usual community stuff again soon, where we can bring people back into the building, hopefully maybe in small numbers to begin with, but also which is where I suppose our initial conversation with Omar Ramadan tent came up. We also do things outside of the building and on the piazza, and we've also got this amazing story garden, which I don't know if anyone's familiar with. It's our sort of essentially it's the space at the back of the British Library site that's basically been turned into a fantastic meanwhile garden. So we also do events and activities in partnership with local groups in those spaces. So we've hosted things like community festival. I feel like I'm talking about the history, like the past a bit, because it's been quite challenging to plan for the very immediate future. But these are the sorts of things that we're hoping to kind of get back up and running again. But we've hosted things like community festivals. And one of the things that we've heard like a lot about from local people is that they don't want the British Library to kind of like program fantastic things for them. There's actually amazing stuff that happens in the community already. And they want a really great space to display their own content and the stuff that they have. So we very much try and embody and adopt an asset-based approach to community work, where we look at not where there's deficits, not where there's necessarily holes or things that we're there to kind of plug, but actually there's some fantastic, culturally rich things already happening locally. How do we, with the amazing resources we have and the experts that work at the British Library, add value and kind of make that even more exciting for local people? So we hope that we'll be able to get back soon doing things like hosting local events and working in partnership with local projects on all sorts of kind of community level projects. We're hoping this summer, for example, to partner with the Young Camden Foundation on a holiday hunger programme, which will be a first for the British Library, which is, I'm sure everyone's heard loads about holiday hunger and the kind of the situation that has been become even more of an issue over the last years throughout lockdown and that kind of thing. So we're hoping to support that initiative where we provide 2 weeks of, in partnership with a local community organisation, a youth organisation, have expertise working with young people to deliver like a really fun interactive programme of activities, but everyone will get a nice lunch every day, basically, will be so food, again, absolutely essential, as always. I feel like I'm talking a lot, so do shut me up.
Emma is sharing some really interesting things and really interesting topics. And I'm looking forward to hearing from all your colleagues as well. Before we move on, because I want to know more about what you do in the community, when it comes to show and tell sessions, we've had some feedback as well. Sarah says that sounds really cool. What could you give maybe 2 or 3 examples of show and tell, perhaps objects that you've had, and you know what's initiated you to bring those to the community? Has it been requests from the community, or you know, how have users connect and what's led to that?
Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, as I mentioned at the start, I was quite new to the sector when I joined. So I was so grateful to get to know the local community as much as I was to get to know the experts at the British Library, because I was very guided by the interest locally in terms of helping me figure out what would work, you know, very practically on a practical level. It was really useful to figure out what would be popular, what would people attend, what people come along to. So and that really has informed how we've developed things like what show and tells we might try and put on at the British Library and host. So we've done, we've been guided quite a lot to an extent by the different diaspora communities that are in our local area. It's massive. I think someone put in the chat earlier on, like what a privilege. Like the British Library is literally in one of the most diverse pockets of, I mean, it's London, so obviously it's going to be diverse, but I mean, it's like a really fantastic area in terms of lots of local different communities. So we've been really lucky in that lots of people have come forward with interests of their own personal, sort of their family background. So one that comes to mind, which I knew nothing about, was when I first started, there was an older people's group who sort of attend day sessions at Camden Age UK, and generally speaking it's kind of like older white working class English people and older Bangladeshi speaking people that attend the sessions, and we managed to pull together like a really nice show and tell with that group that was all around the theme of Putipura, which is, I'm going to get it wrong now, I hope one of my colleagues will correct me if I do, but it's kind of like a particular kind of literature that was really well known amongst a really specific group of local Bangladeshi community members. And I didn't know this at the time, and it was a really fantastic opportunity for us to get to know them. And we got this group along, and they got to kind of get really up close and personal with some of the texts. And there were loads of the South Asia curators present who were able to kind of talk to them about it, and they had this really lovely exchange. And we've had lots of examples like that. Amber, my colleague who is on the call at the moment, she, in fairness, actually manages all of that now, so I'm a little bit less close to it. But all of them are guided by interests, and we really welcome requests. We definitely in our team welcome requests of interest, because it helps us, because there's so many experts at the library who know about their thing, and it actually helps us to kind of like have detail from people to go and say, right, where is this thing? How do we plan it? I hope that answers the question.
So much, Emma. That's been really informative. And like I say, it's about getting to know your local communities. And that takes us on nicely to Abdi Kadir. So Abdi, you've mentioned football initiatives, and you've also mentioned the community programme in King's Cross. Could you tell us specifically a little bit more about that, please, and what projects you've worked on?
Yeah, so as I said in my earlier days, volunteering, in terms of my local community, but at the moment, we run coding classes, we run yoga at the center, Tai Chi, parental classes for parents, but also an opportunity to engage with, because we're right in the middle of a development. So we've got all of these tech companies, Google, Facebook, all next to us. And what we do with the young people is get them to do coding. So giving them access to coding class, but also sports, table tennis, badminton, football, basketball. And I think it's really important you give the community spaces to, to kind of, as Emma said earlier, you don't want to do, you want to kind of support what the community wants. So we're at the midst at the moment trying to set up a chess club, a book reading club. So just trying to get to what the needs of the local community are. And I think it's always important you bring residents at the heart of that, but also people that live locally. Jamal, who's on the call, who's actually used to be a former service user, does a lot of work with us around, engaging young people, but also the consultation at the moment with regards to the redevelopment of the British Library. But as I said earlier, initiatives with young people around coding is very important to us, but also that technological divide. During the lockdown, we handed out over 55 laptops to young people who were struggling in terms of getting online, in terms of school. So we provided laptops, but also free tuition, English and maths tuition as well to over 70 young people that live in the boroughs.
So you're doing all these wonderful sporting events, and how do you specifically engage with one portion of the community, or how do you engage with the community to make sure that the different diverse groups are represented?
We work with partners. I think it's really important that you have local partners, whether it's the British Library, whether it's other local community organisations, but also our networks within the local council. I think you can never do nothing in isolation. So we always try and work with local community organisations, institutions like the British Library, local, libraries. In terms of schools, we work very closely with all the local schools in our catchment as well, which is always important.
Thank you. And that leads us nicely on to Jamal. So Jamal, how Abdi Kadir has mentioned that you have been a service user in the past, and how did you get involved with the British Library? How has it led to your own personal growth, and has it influenced anything that you're working on at present, or your current development?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pleasure to work with not only SYDRC but recently the British Library, because it kind of especially from the angle which I was asked to attack the problem from, which was from the view of young people, and it projects like this really helps to kind of legitimize the voice of young people, because often we can feel overheard or misrepresented in different aspects of society. So it really legitimizes the voice of young people in to know that people are listening to what they're saying, and people not only want to hear what they're saying, but also are willing to do things about it. And that's what I really hope this project that I've worked on the British Library with can achieve. And as Abdul mentioned, different projects throughout the years have been really instrumental in building me up as a person and shaping me to be the kind of person I am today. I remember in back in year 8, when the first day when Abdul did a colleague is called Abdul walked into a classroom and helped deliver us a program about just community and just community engagement in general. And I remember being fascinated by it, because it was the first time I'd kind of thought about a wider community like that, outside of your family or your friends, just a community in general, whether that be Camden as a council, or whether that be borough, or whether that be the wider community in general. And the events they put on, I think my favorite would have to be back in like 2012, 2013 was the youth exchange, where we had young Somali people from all across Europe come together in London and share our experiences, share our voices, and share just our lives in general. And it felt really good to know that people going through the same things as you, no matter what part of Europe they were from. I remember talking to a few Swedish people, and it was really eye-opening, and it was a great experience, and it really helped me build up my confidence and kind of make me into the person I am today. So I'm very grateful for the work that SYDRC and other organizations do in the local community.
Because you've spoken about, you've researched the local community from a youth perspective. So I'm really intrigued, how did you do that? How did you make sure everyone's voice was heard? And about also, so I'm going to tag on another question as well. So how can, we spoke about the expansion of the British Library as well. So how can the British Library, tagging onto that, be expanded to take into context the voice of the locals and the youth population?
Right. So it was very difficult at first, because of not only COVID, but also with young people specifically, it's they have a lot of feelings, but it's hard for a lot of them to kind of articulate and get into words what they really want to achieve and what they really want to say. So at first, it was just people in directly near to me. So like my building, there's a lot of families in my building. So I was just going to them and people that I know and asking them like a few phone calls, a few Zoom calls, just asking people, to share the message, to share my contact details, to share my information, and to share what I was trying to research. And thankfully, a lot of them were very helpful. And it was a mixture of just questionnaires I did online. If they weren't really comfortable talking to me, it was questionnaires that we had set up, or a lot of them, it was phone calls or Zoom calls. And I felt that to be more productive, because the questionnaires also seem so one-sided and sort of closed-ended. But once you really start getting them talking and start to get at their true feelings, get at what they're really trying to say, it's really eye-opening. And that's why my report was in the end was so easy to write, because honestly I was just writing their words down, and it was just their true emotions and their true feelings, and so that's why it was very rewarding. But it was very rewarding.
What's the key findings of your report?
Well, as someone said earlier, I think it was Emma, but it was just that feeling of the British Library being unapproachable in a way, kind of being like knowing it's there and they've all visited it and it's a beautiful building, but it's just kind of feeling like what is there for us, and what do we do there? and a lot of them said that they have used it for maybe studying or like books, like research purposes. But I feel like a lot of the exhibits they do and a lot of future programs they're running are going to be very instrumental in getting young people involved. And I look forward to seeing what the group can do.
Thank you. I'm now going to we're going to have on Daniel. Now, Daniel's a curator in the British Library for the Arabic collection. And Daniel, how's your work with the Arabic collection helped you to reach out? So we've spoken about the Somali community and the Bangladeshi community, and has it helped you reach out to the local Arab community as well?
So thanks, Farah. And yeah, so I mean, we've kind of done a lot of show and tells, like through the community engagement group, as Emma said. And so we often bring out these quite iconic items that we hold in Arabic. So like we've got kind of like an 8th century Quran fragment from the Hijaz, and very kind of lavishly illuminated Sultan Baybar's Quran from the 14th century. Which we do show people, but we also have items that are like you just wouldn't expect. So we've got like a brochure for the opening of East London Mosque from 1941, for example, or we've got sort of pamphlets about anti-fascist organising in Brick Lane from the 70s,
Wow.
really relevant to the Bangladeshi community. Or we've got like a Moroccan oral history project from, I think it was from 2008. So, that relates really strongly to the Moroccan community in North Kensington. So it's often we kind of bring all of these elements together to show people, to engage with like lots of different communities. So like, and I think it's quite important to like acknowledge also that it's not just the Arabic community who will find interest in the Arabic collections, but these things kind of like are really interesting to all sorts of people, because there's all sorts of, I think as Jamal kind of alluded to, like lived experience that's really important from different communities. It's not just related by like nation or diaspora or language. But yeah, through these show and tells, that's been really good. But there's always one thing that makes me feel really nervous, is like being referred to as an expert, because actually there's so much expertise in the room and probably on this call and from everyone listening. And I think for me, that's really what like our jobs as curators really need to do, is to actually acknowledge that expertise from the community. And it just astounds me all the time when like I'm showing somebody in the local community an item, the stories that they will bring to me, like from their own lived experience, which I couldn't know as a curator from my kind of quite academic experience. So yeah, the work that we do, it's traditionally, I think, seen as being like with mainly academics, but actually we try and engage all sorts of people. So not just community in like community groups, but artists, writers, comic books artists, musicians, with all aspects of our collections. So yeah, that's kind of giving you a bit of a broad overview of kind of some of the work that we've done that's community related.
That's actually so fascinating. I personally didn't know. I have used the British Library to study on more than one occasion, and I've been to the odd exhibition there, and I've been to the odd lecture there, because for those who don't know, they do some absolutely fantastic lectures as well. But it's really interesting how that you do reach out to different communities, and it's very inspiring. So this is a question for four of our panel members, and including yourself, Daniel. You can sort of put our hands up, whoever wants to speak first. But how can we encourage similar projects in other London boroughs to bring diverse communities together? Because I know when I'm sort of going through different parts of London, I find that a lot of communities can live in pockets. So we have such a diverse range of history and culture, such richness to share with one another. So, how can we work together to share that with and transport that model to other communities in London and also outside of London?
It's a big question. I'm not sure how to answer it, but
you can add a comment and then we'll go over to Abdi Kadir.
I think from my perspective, like as somebody who works in the library, I'm also embedded in my own local community. So I live in Hackney, But like my family's originally from Newham, so like I've got all of these kind of interconnections where I can kind of talk to people about different aspects of our work, what we hold, and also just talk about things that are relevant to them. So, you know, maybe the kind of 8th century Quran isn't the most interesting thing to them, but it might be. But actually the kind of brochures about anti-fascist organizing in 1978 are way more interesting, because that's like sort of within historical memory, it might relate to their parents or their grandparents. So that's something people will like gravitate towards, you know, naturally. So it's kind of working out, you know, through your own personal connections, how you can make the collections relevant and interesting and engaging and activating. I'll pass on to someone else to try and.
Thank you. Well, Abdi Kadir, you've done a lot in the local community. So how can we encourage similar projects in other London boroughs? And before you answer that question, I've just had a reminder as well that today's Adhan, the ending of the fast, it's at, I had it here, 8:42. I was an extra 4 minutes there. It's on at 8:42 and it's going to be live from Trafalgar Square. So we're going to stop in about 4 or 5 minutes before we go live to Trafalgar Square. But Abdi Kadir, I'd love to hear from you. So yeah, how can we encourage similar projects to the ones that you're working on within the British Library, and you know how the British Library is reaching out? How can we encourage similar projects to happen in other communities to encourage people to work together and share the richness of culture and diversity?
Simple answer would be to have more Emmas, huh? Have more Emmas in place.
Have more Emmas
People
in
like
place.
Emma. But I think, do you know what it is?
Emma, you're gonna have to contribute to this. Really?
I think what it is it's really putting at the heart people that really care and want to challenge the status quo. I think it's really important these historical buildings don't just feel, you know, alien to certain communities that live in London. And I think it's really, really, you know, a testament of the work Emma's doing, but also, you know, people that really are passionate about getting local communities to kind of benefit from these resources. As you said, you know, the British Library holds so many exhibitions that, you know, that your average person just doesn't know about them. And I think as a community organisation, it's our responsibility to promote these as well, and to try and, you know, bring our service users in terms of, you know, accessing these buildings. Because I think, you know, you don't want them to be historical buildings that are, you know, not being accessed by certain communities that live so close to it. And I think, as I said earlier, you know, having people like Emma, but people that really care and want to challenge, you know, the status quo is a good start as well.
Emma, from an institutional point of view, you have been nominated. How can we duplicate you, but also
that is
similar projects in other areas?
Far too complimentary. I think that like mutual benefit, like I think like where it's working for us is like, for instance, if you take the work that Jamal's just done, there is no way the British Library, albeit we've got very good relationships locally, we've worked very closely with people, we know the community, but we would never have reached all of those young people. Like they've got, like, working with grassroots organisations who intimately know the needs of their communities, and integrating that into your work, you know, and listening to it and making it a part of your business as usual, I think is the approach that we are now taking at the British Library. So I feel like that would be my recommendation. If I was to sort of speak to other sort of heritage sector organisations or big institutions that are struggling, there are experts like Daniel said, you know, there are experts out there. There are people who know about their history, the things that they're interested in, the needs of their community far better, and can work with you to make things even more amazing than they already are. It's not an either or. That is what I would say. And I think like all of the contributors here today that we've got, they're here, you know, they're here because we asked them to join us as the British Library, because we literally couldn't do what we do in our team, especially without those partnerships. It would be completely meaningless.
Absolutely, it is all about working together. And Jamal, that leads us on to our last question. I'm going to meet Jamal from Adnan, and Adnan says, how can people get involved? So you've been involved. How can we get involved with this?
I mean, just contact local community organizations that you're aware of. maybe research some local communities, organizations that you want to be involved with. Maybe it's distance. Maybe if you live close to one of them, then you can maybe volunteer your hours, volunteer your time, because I know a lot of them are struggling right now in trying to restart some programs now that we're trying to ease lockdown restrictions. I know Abdulkader especially has been talking about running a few important programs. So yeah, just the best thing you do is volunteer your time and volunteer your passion, and I know everyone can use it. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
And Emma, do you have any structural processes that we can sort of do? How can we, is it through the website? Do you have an Instagram page? I mean, I'm subscribed to mailing lists, but how can people get involved, and how can your local people living locally, do you get involved?
We have social media.
About 30 seconds.
We have social media, and also we can share with you, if that's okay. We're happy to share our emails, so you can get on newsletters. We have a regular community newsletter. Our focus is very, very local, so we do obviously focus very much on sort of geographically local people. But yeah, we've got a mailing list that people can subscribe to if they want to, and find out more about how to get involved and how they can volunteer and support.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So we're just going to pause for reflection, and we have Trafalgar Square live as well. So we're going to be spotlighting them shortly, and we'll have Azan shortly. Thank you for joining us today. And if you hang on, we'll do a final thank you at the end.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وله اللهم لا إله إلا الله
So that was our special live-a-thon from Trafalgar Square. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely stunning. The sky looks amazing. And before we finish today, I just would love to say a big thank you to our speakers who have joined us, who work for the British Library and who work with the British Library. Today we've been joined by Emma, Anwar, Daniel, Abdi Kadir, Jamal. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us today. And we've learned so much about the diverse work that the British Library does and how it engages local communities. And we look forward to being there live as well in the near future, inshallah, next year, inshallah. I'd also like to just in the last couple of minutes say a big thank you once again to Islam Channel, our media partner this year, and also to the Arts Council UK for making this event possible. You can read more about how we are fighting world hunger with Islamic Relief at iruk.co/RTP. And as Ramadan is a month of charity and giving, we only have a day left now. We'd love to encourage you to support the Ramadan Tent Project and help us to continue our work. Your support is vital to keeping us going as the world transitions back to normality, and helping us to continue our initiatives such as Open Iftars, our Sunnah Fasts, and the other events we put on throughout the year. You can donate on our website at www.ramadantentproject.com or on our launch code at launchcode.com/RTP 2021. And thank you just once again. It's been absolutely fantastic. We've learned so much. Thank you to our hosts and our guests for joining us. And we look forward to joining you tomorrow, inshallah, for our final Open Iftar before Eid. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Enjoy Iftar, enjoy your evening.